Geologists warning concerning a big one earthquake on the west coast, the Cascadia area of US and Canada, saying it's a matter of when, not if. The last big one, and we're going to see a NOAA simulation of that, was in the year 1700, and that was the orphan tsunami that hit the area of Japan, as recorded by the annals there. And we'll see the simulation, what happens a day later, and how high that tidal wave was. So this is a warning of this, and you'll see the video before this one having to do with the Cascadia earthquake, slightly 4.4, 4.3 in the Mendocino fracture zone in northwest California. So here they're talking about the earthquake. That could be a big one, a major earthquake, because of the pressure that's building up there. The people in Canada have been warned. The people in Portland have been warned. Experts claiming it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when a large-scale natural disaster earthquake will happen. It's been centuries since the contiguous U.S. The entirety of the states experienced a big one earthquake. The last one was 9.1, 1700. On the record, 1700 estimated at a magnitude 9.1. This was along the Cascadia subduction zone, where the Juan de Fuca plate is diving under the North American plate. It's the subduction of the Pacific plate under the North American plate. Huge earthquakes happen here because the plate is diving down and is usually oceanic crust, which is cold and dense, meaning that it can break up in a sharp, sudden manner. But the cold, dense crust that's sinking can break for a much longer time and initially result in seismic shifts and earthquakes. And the nature of the zone pairs any earthquake with another destructive event, of course, as what happened with Japan in 2011, a tidal wave from that, a tsunami. The earthquake that hit in 1700 sent a tsunami across the Pacific Ocean as far as Japan, what they called the orphan tsunami there. Now, researchers are now expecting another event at Cascadia subduction zone. The chances of that happening in the next few decades has been explored by PBS NOVA documentary. The Pacific Northwest is due for a major earthquake is the title of that. Geologist Wendy Bond and senior science communication specialists, Incorporated Research Institutions for Seismology, explained to us a process of how a tsunami would result from the earthquake, saying you have one plate diving beneath the other, one section gets locked and it pushes apart up the other one. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. One plate diving down beneath the other, sections get locked and push another part up. When the fault ruptures, when the amount of stress overcomes the friction, she says, it bounces back up, which lifts up the water above it, causing that water to flow out in all directions. And that water flowing out in all directions is the tidal wave from the earthquake, the tsunami. Now, there have been written histories and oral histories of the earthquake and tsunami that hit 1700, suggesting many, of course, lost their lives from that event. And as we can see from the simulation of NOAA, we see that we will see it coming up 24 hours. The tidal wave height was about 10 feet all around the Pacific Ocean basin. So it's not just where it happened in California, but the tidal wave built up to 10-foot height. And of course, we know that most people would live in fishing villages along the coasts. So the water consumed much of the forestry at that area and land near the sea, destroying native populations' temporary homes at that time. Back then, Native Americans used the land differently to the colonizers, not building any permanent structures and constantly moving across the region because, of course, as we know, they were following the buffalo. Now, with a population of millions now on the coasts and structures designed to last, things are different. Although we don't know with a big earthquake how much they would last. Most of them would perhaps contain a 7 magnitude earthquake above that is a problem. Now, as documentary narrator said, for communities along the coast at sea level, an earthquake and tsunami event could have a much bigger impact today than it did in the year 1700. Of course, we know that the population has risen a lot since then. One of the maps that I saw, I'll try and find it, but it was a map from 1 AD up to today, showing that most of the time the population was the worldwide population was 150 million, and then it went up to about 300 million. Then after the year 1600, it really went up fast because of the fact that the new countries, the newfound lands, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, were paradise, of course, for relocating people, and there was a population explosion. So now, of course, the geological evidence of this earthquake and the tsunami that it caused along the Cascadia boundary say that there are large earthquakes, big one earthquakes, every 300 to 500 years. So this one here, of course, was 321 years ago, which means that we could be getting closer to a big one earthquake. The Shoalwater Bay tribe already started preparations for an earthquake and tsunami, having applied for and receiving funding to construct a tsunami evacuation tower on their reservation. But many other tribes and people living are in risk areas, high risk areas, and are significantly underprepared. The geologist, Ms. Bowen, said, "We really need to be prepared for that eventuality because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when," she explains. Of course, these waves, as we said, as we see in the simulation, and you can see here as the red is around 10 feet height, 3 meters, and this one is into the 20-hour section, and you can see that the whole area, you'll see the coastlines. Okay, here we are, 24 hours. The coastlines are red. So you'll see it again, meaning that they're at 10-foot level. 10-foot level is at least a story height. And for coasts, of course, that is a disaster. So, and it's not just a slow rise, it's a quick rise of water. So, the wave, of course, has a potential of total destruction. Chris Goldfinger, professor at geophysics at Oregon State University, said, "The Cascadia zone is even more dangerous than California famous San Andreas fault." Back in 2018, he said Cascadia can make an earthquake almost 30 times more energetic than the San Andreas to start with, and then it generates tsunami at the same time, which the side-by-side motion of San Andreas cannot do. He says you're going to have 3 to 5 minutes of shaking. I mean, that's amazing. And we're going to see, we're looking at the tsunami simulation now of that 1700 earthquake. And if you're used to earthquakes in California, they typically last 15 to 30 seconds, but a big one will last 3 minutes. And before you're ready, you're really sure of what's happening. It's over in California. But the 3 minutes is, of course, long. Anyway, you can imagine. Now, analysis in 2016 found that there were 43 major earthquakes in the past 10,000 years at the Cascadia zone. These were often on the entire zone itself, but sometimes on smaller parts of it. Then in November 2017, a study led by University of Texas Austin found that the occurrence of earthquakes and tsunamis may be linked to compact sediment along large portions of the subduction zone. So all of you there, please keep that in mind. Please be careful, because that's what they're waiting for, a big one. This is by Joel Day, Express UK. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.